Well, hi there, welcome back to Abus and Beyond, and in today's video I want to talk to you about toilets, loos, dunnies, bogs, I want to talk to you about our experience with toilets because we've definitely had a shift in our preference of what we like to use. We spent many years using a porta potty. This exact porta potty, we bought it when we bought our first California. We used it all through our travels with that. We used it in our second California, and we've also used it in this van as well. So we've used it absolutely tons. It's been really good. And when Trino approached us and said, do you fancy trying our composting toilet? I must admit, we thought, no, not really, because we're quite happy with this. Over a few weeks, we thought about it more and more, and we had our big trip to France coming up earlier in the year. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, maybe we are the ideal candidate to try this out. Maybe we could be converted to a composting toilet. So eventually I replied and said, yeah, all right. And I told them, you know, we are pretty skeptical about trying out a composting toilet because we have been so used to using a chemical toilet, but we thought, well, maybe we are the ideal people to try it out. They agreed, they sent us this, and I'll tell you about our experiences using the composting toilet. So first of all, let's look at the two different toilets in detail so we know what is what. This is a chemical toilet, specifically by Thetford. It's a porta potty. These fit perfectly underneath the shelf of a California, which is why you see these so often. The way it works, you lift the lid, you do your business. In the top here, you actually open this and you can fill it with water and this pink solution for a flush. Close that back up, you pull that, and then that is your flush. Plunger sends the pink fluid around and flushes the toilet. When you actually come to use the toilet, you pull this lever out, which opens up basically the plug down to the bottom, which is the second container underneath. That houses your blue chemical and all your business that you do. So when you go for a wee or a poo, it goes down into there. These chemicals break up all the stuff down the bottom, including the toilet roll that you put down there, and then you have to dispose of that either down the toilet or into a chemical Elson point on a campsite, for example. The way you do that, close your plunger, you have a lever at the back here which separates the two parts. You then take this, open that up, open the lid and pour it down the toilet or chemical Elson point. Put a bit more of your fluid back in, take it back, and then go ahead and use it again. Come on, there we go. So there is a few moving parts, you know, there's seals and pumps and levers and stuff, whereas a composting toilet, in this form anyway, is a lot more basic. Lift up the lid, do your business on the top, and you can see there's two separate parts. A bigger opening for your number twos and a smaller opening for the wees. Now, what happens underneath? Lift the lid off, and underneath you have two separate containers. In here you put a bag, one of these bags. These are the bags that come with the toilet from Trino, and you put composting material on the top, which we'll talk about later. After a couple of days, once you've done your business, you tie up the bag and you dispose of it. Now, you can actually dispose of that anywhere. It is okay to dispose of it, obviously, in a bin, but you can dispose of that in a normal waste bin. Now, for the wee part of it, that goes down the one-way valve into this container, and because there's no chemicals involved, that can be disposed of anywhere. So, you know, if you're wild camping, it can be poured into a bush. Yeah, you can get rid of that anywhere. So that's spot on. Now this, the Trino is pretty good because it actually has somewhere at the bottom underneath that bin, to put the lid for this when you want to dispose of that. And then there's also another lid without a one-way valve in for when you're transporting this to wherever you're going to dispose of it. That's all built inside. Then that goes back on, and then pop the lid back on. So I touched on the chemicals beforehand. So the pink fluid is for your flush. The blue fluid is to break down the waste. There is a green version of this as well, which is supposedly a bit more eco-friendly. Some campsites do require that. They don't like you putting the blue one down. It's if they've got certain types of disposal points that are built into the ground, and yeah. So, but the main thing is you do have to dispose of chemical toilets in a correct manner. So it has to be down a normal toilet with black water waste, or it has to be down a chemical Elson point. The difference with the Trino is you've got two different parts. Now you can actually experiment with whatever spray you want for the urine part. You do your business, go for a wee, and then you spray whatever you find best. Ideally natural, obviously, otherwise you end up with the same issue as a chemical toilet. But we use a mixture of vinegar and water, spray that down once you've been for a wee, give it a wipe, and then you put the tissue that you've wiped into the composting bit, into the where your number twos go. So yeah, we use a vinegar and water solution. You can use other things, like when we were in France, actually, the supermarché had loads of natural products and they were quite good, but I've not found them again since. So we'll have to stock up when we go to France, but they were quite good. They had different smelling ones. For your number two compartment, again, there's all sorts of different things. We use coconut bricks. Obviously not the whole thing. What you do is, these come from Amazon in a big pack, and you put it into a bucket. Obviously take the wrapper off, put it into a bucket and add a bit of water, and it just expands. This creates tons of coconut like mulch, essentially. So it's all natural stuff, and then we just have it in a tub next to the toilet with a scoop. So you do your business, and once you've done your business, you then cover it with this coconut brick mulch. Just put that on, shut the lid, and then over time this just covers over the top of the poo and just stops it from smelling until you've got time to bag it up and chuck it in the bin. And it honestly does stop it from smelling. Now, we had a bit of a rule with the chemical toilet where it was number ones only, unless in real emergencies. And there's a couple of reasons for that. They do generally start smelling a bit whiffy, even though you've got chemicals in there, just the way they break up the stuff, it does start smelling. The smell is mainly caused from wee and poo mixing. That's what creates the odour. Obviously in a chemical toilet, that's what's happening, and that's why it smells. Whereas we don't have that issue in here, because you can dispose of it easily, and because the two different wastes are separate, it just does not smell anything like this. The only smell you get actually is like salt and vinegar or pickled onion crisps from this this vinegar spray. So yeah, it's loads better. One thing I should mention is, as a man, you have to sit down to do your wheeze, unless you're very, very accurate, because it needs to go down this chute. If you're like me, you'll find that a sit-down wee is pretty luxurious. But obviously it's a bit different for a woman. Lizzie, what's your experience?
I love talking about my habits in a toilet. Thanks for bringing me on this one. So yeah, actually, it is something that we need to talk about, because I think that 90% of the time, when someone suggests using a composting toilet, the woman will go, no thanks. But actually, I am a complete and utter convert. So with something like the chemical toilet, you have one compartment for both wees and poos. Now, as we women know, if you're going to the toilet, you can do both at the same time, which makes things quite challenging if you have to direct them in the proper location for something like a composting toilet. And it was something I was genuinely worried about. So you obviously need to sit down in the right location. You haven't got something to point at, something to use to point at even. if you understand where I'm going with this. Right, so you've just got to sit in the right place. So obviously if you're going to sit forward a bit to do your wheeze, but sometimes, as we know, it doesn't work like that. If you've just got a little trickle, sometimes it just disappears around the back and goes in. Now the nice thing about this is, when that has happened to me, it doesn't actually matter, because the coconut mulch stuff works really well to cover up your poos, your wheeze. Not much goes in the back, but if it does, it's not the end of the world, and it's very easy to sort out. Most of it will still go in the front. The biggest problem would be if you started pooing in the front. So obviously both men and women don't want to be doing that anyway. So you still need to make sure you're sitting further back. But genuinely, I've had no issues at all. It has been fantastic, very easy to aim, just sit in the middle, and it's actually really comfortable to sit on. I will say that. It's more comfortable, I think, than this is. This has got quite a narrow rim, whereas this is actually quite a wide rim. So it's nice to just sit in, chill out. I will just say another thing as well, actually. If you're on your period, obviously you've got things like sanitary towels and tampons and all sorts that go along with that. Now you can actually put all of them, providing you're using the normal bag, not the compostable bags, you can just put it in the back of the toilet and then just cover it in the mulch. So again, it won't create any smells, and it is so much easier to dispose of than having to put it in your general waste bin inside the van. At least it's in here and away. And I genuinely think that's such a huge bonus, because you can't put it in these at all. You can't put any sanitary towels or anything like that in these toilets, whereas you can put it in the poo part of these toilets. So that again is another huge bonus to having these toilets, the Trino ones, rather than these chemical toilets.
Now I'm sure it's pretty clear that we're converted to composting toilets, and there's probably a few reasons why we think that you should probably go for Trino. They are 100% made in Germany, so real top-notch quality. They've got a few different options. This is the Evo, so it's pretty much all like a composite plastic material, it's really lightweight, has the flip-up lid. Yeah, a few different sizes. This is the large, so it's the big one. They do have smaller and medium ones. The alternative one is the Origin, so that probably, if anything, looks a bit sleeker. It's got a wooden lid to it, got like a dark grey colour. It does look quite sleek, but we found, well, this was the newest at the time, and we fancied trying this one. And it does genuinely look far sleeker, far more modern than these porta potties, in our opinion. I think they look pretty good. Trino also do a range of like DIY kits where if you are on a bit of a budget, because these are not cheap, there's no question about that, especially compared to these. You can get these for about 70 quid, whereas these are more like £400 or £500, so they're quite a lot of money. If you're on a bit more of a budget, they do a DIY system where, you know, especially for self-built vans, you can actually incorporate a composting toilet setup inside something that you've built, which is quite neat. It does genuinely feel like a much more quality product compared to something like this. Just the way the whole brand works, the fact that they give you these funny bags with certain things written on them. They even gave us a pair of socks that have got a poo emoji on. So yeah, it's quite funny. It's just much more of a brand, really. It's just quite cool. The beauty of it being so lightweight is you can do your business absolutely anywhere. One of the biggest considerations is the difference in pricing. Now these are pretty cheap. These are sort of 70 or 80 quid, whereas these are more like £400 or £500. So they're a lot more money. There's a few nicer things, you know. You have a soft close lid. Just the plastic it's made out of is nicer. One of the reasons it's more expensive is this is entirely produced in Germany. They do actually work closely with a sheltered workshop as well to produce the lids, which is nice. But one of the biggest things is Brexit. That's why it's so much more expensive here. But they are a real quality product. It just looks nicer as well, doesn't it, in your van compared to that. Really good quality. You can sit on the top here if you want, and the lid, it just yeah, it's really nicely sealed. It just makes sure none of that, even the salt and vinegar crisp smell, doesn't escape. One option you do have is, so if you're using these bags for your poos, you obviously have to dispose of it correctly in a bin, in a general waste bin. Unless you use compostable bags. You can actually get compostable bags. You need to be pretty aware that it's a compostable bag in there, because obviously if it decays and breaks down, then you'll have a right mess inside the bin. But if you do use a compostable bag, you can dispose of it like normal human waste. So if you were to wild camp, you can bury it and then it's well out of the way. But with these proper bags that are plastic, you do have to dispose of them properly. Well, I hope that's given you a good insight into the difference between a chemical toilet and a composting toilet. These are better, in our opinion, for everyone, we reckon. Even though this fits perfectly in the boot of a California, they do actually produce a Trino that is the same size as this. So you can, yeah, we will always recommend this. Just the fact that you can go for so much longer without emptying, you can empty it anywhere. Yeah, we just think they're great. If you're interested in getting yourself a Trino, click on the link in the description below. And yes, although this has been given to us, we are genuinely converted. We've only kept this because I wanted to do this video. This will be disposed of. We will not be using this anymore. We will always use this. This is far, far better. So yeah, check out the link in the description below and maybe get yourself some pooey socks. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you found it useful, please hit that thumbs up button. It really helps us out, and consider sharing as well if you want to show someone else our amazing toilet. Please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, and we shall see you in the next video. Cheers.